Video shows how to map out your value scales for the value scale studies assignment. So this will be showing you how to basically make this page and label all of the things that you need, as well as get you started on a few of them. So the first thing you're going to need is one of these papers that has the 4 boxes on the front and 2 on the back. Those are up on the front table under the drawing 1 section. You're also going to need a ballpoint pen, which is also up front, and you're going to need the following pencils. You're going to need 2H, H or HB, 2B, 4B, and 6B. You'll also want an eraser. Underneath each of these, you're going to use the corresponding pencil to color a square. So under this one, I'll use the H or HB. Then I'll do 2B. Doesn't have to be a perfect square. It's basically just to help you remember which ones are the lightest and which are the darkest. So 2H is the lightest and 6B is the darkest. Please also make sure that you put your name on the top and your class period. Okay, so to divide up this box, we need 12 boxes, and this is 6 inches wide. So we're going to put a mark every ½ inch. So at ½ inch, 1, that wasn't a ½ inch, there we go. ½ inch, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, all the way down until you get down to 6. Then you're going to do the same thing at the top and mark every ½ inch, because then you're going to line them up and connect the lines. Okay, you should use a ruler, but I'm going to do mine very quickly so this video doesn't take forever. Okay, we have 12 boxes. You're going to put an X at the last one because we only need 11, and you're going to label these 1 through 10. Okay. You're going to leave the first one totally white because that is the lightest value. Okay, so with my lightest pencil, I'm going to color in the first box. I'm going to color it as lightly as I can, like you can barely even see it up there. If I shade with the side of my pencil, that is so much smoother than if I shade with the tip of my pencil, which makes it jagged lines. So my goal is to get this like as smooth as possible and as light as possible. Then I'm going to use 2H here, 2H here. I'm going to press just the tiniest bit harder, and that will make my value just the tiniest bit bigger. Okay. Then I'm going to move on to my next darkest pencil, which is my HB pencil, or my H. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to press soft first. My goal is to make a very smooth value scale that goes all the way from white to basically black. But since we're not using a marker, it'll be a very dark gray. Okay, I'm rushing through this. Yours should be very smooth. If I squint my eyes and look at this, I can see that this value to this value is actually a pretty big shift. So I can go in with my eraser and lightly erase that. And then I can always add back in just a little bit more. But I don't want my values to be big jumps. I want them to be really mild jumps. Okay. Then I'm going to go all the way through. So HB's here, pressing harder here. Then I'm going to go to 2B here and here, 4B here and here, oops, and 6B here and here. So by the time I get to 10, this should be so dark that it is filled all the way in. Like I said, it's almost totally black, except we're not using a marker and pencils are gray. So it's totally dark gray. Okay. So I want all the way from 0 to black, and I want this to be super nice and clean, just like in the example slide. Okay, so this one I have labeled value scale 1 through 10 or basic scale. Okay, the next one down is going to be hatching. This is cross hatching. This one is loose line, which is basically scribbling. On the back, we have stippling, which is a lot of dots, and we have smudging. Okay, so for hatching, for all of the rest of these, you're going to use a pen, except for this last one, you'll use a pencil. So for hatching, it's diagonal lines that all go the same direction. The closer together that your lines are, the darker it is, and the further apart your lines are, the lighter it is. So you want from dark to light. Cross hatching is the same thing, except that you have lines that run perpendicular to each other. Okay, same thing. The further apart, the lighter. The closer together, the darker. Loose line is basically scribbles. The closer together the scribbles, the darker it is. Like you want this one to be totally black, right? Very, very dark. Okay, then the farther apart they get, the lighter it looks. Okay, backside stippling is a bunch of dots. So the closer together the dots are, the darker it looks. The further apart the dots are, the lighter it looks. Last one, you're going to use a pencil, and you're going to go super dark, and you're going to fill out the whole thing, obviously, but you're going to go super dark, and then you'll use a smudge stick, which is also up front, to smooth this out, and then you can use it to drag and smudge the value all the way across. So by the time you get over here, you know, it's very, very light. Okay, that is value scales. Underneath here, we'll be drawing our sphere.